کهکشان مقاومت ایران 1402 کنفرانس دادخواهی، محاکمه سران رژیم آخوندی به خاطر جنایت علیه بشریت و نسل کشی، سخنرانیهای شخصیتهای سیاسی و حقوقی، قانونگذاران، وکلا و کارشناسان ویژه ملل متحد از کشورهای مختلف جهان.
سخنرانیهای پیرسانه، مدیرکل عفو بین الملل 1992 تا 2001. زوریکا ماریچ، سفیر مونتنگرو در شورای حقوق بشر 2015.
پیرسانه، مدیرکل عفو بین الملل 1992 تا 2001. به رغم تمام رویدادها، تحولات و نقض فاحش حقوق بشر در جهان، به نظر می رسد که در میان بی‌تفاوتی جامعه بین المللی، ایران همچنان گورستان حقوق بشر باقی مانده است. وقتی صحبت از نقض حقوق بشر به میان می آید، رژیم ایران شامل تمام محورهای قتل عام، شکنجه، اعدام و ناپدیدسازی اجباری، خشونت علیه زنان، سلب آزادیها و آزادیهای عمومی، وحشیگری و سرکوب می شود.
Good afternoon, everybody. Dear friends, dear participants, dear former colleagues, biographies are about the past, but my biography of the future is actually being written by my daughter, who is a human rights defender and who is an attorney-in-law. She was invited by a conference in December 2016 to give an address on the massacre of 1988, impunity, and the need for accountability. Human rights are in crisis again. In the 1990s, when I was at Amnesty International, we thought we were living through the worst times in human rights. We had the genocide in Serbia, we had a genocide in the Rwanda, endless wars in Africa, ending with the invasion of Iraq, followed by decades of war on terror, with all the violation of human rights that those conflicts generate. But throughout all those events, upheavals, gross violation of human rights, it seems that Iran continued to remain the graveyard of human rights, the graveyard where human rights violations are taking place almost amidst indifference of the international community. When it comes to human rights violations, I was just reading again this morning the latest Amnesty International report, Iran ticks all the boxes: massacres, torture, execution, and forced disappearance, violence against women, confiscation of freedoms and public liberties, brutality of the repression. But it seems that there are complexities in organizing international solidarity, especially among progressive movements. When we talk about human rights violation, we talk about universal rights that apply to all members of humanity. And the last time I checked, the Iranian people were still members of humanity. Irrespective of the context, irrespective of the geopolitical development, we cannot, because of politics, sacrifice on our duty of solidarity to all those who are victims of human rights violation and to all those who are fighting for a human rights regime. And that starts by the end. That starts with the end of impunity. There cannot be human rights if impunity is allowed to prosper. And the end of impunity is the basis for international solidarity, which is nothing more than the expression of our obligations towards other fellow human beings. There is no human right if there is no human obligations. Solidarity is the key. And we showed it, how solidarity was successful in ending apartheid in South Africa, in ending the military dictatorship in Latin America, in bringing an end to the Vietnam War. It is indeed time that we step up the solidarity for the struggle for human rights in Iran. Yes, the progressive movement now must prioritize Iran alongside the human rights movement. When resistance is based on justice, freedom, and equality, it will win because it becomes the embodiment of the people. And no government can win the people. Thank you.
زوریکا ماریچ، سفیر مونتنگرو در شورای حقوق بشر 2015. شورای حقوق بشر ملل متحد نباید ساکت بماند و باید برای مقابله با مصونیت مداوم از مجازات در ایران اقدام کند. زمان آن فرا رسیده که یک کمیسیون مستقل تحقیقات بین المللی با یک مأموریت بین المللی برای روشن کردن سرنوشت و محل مفقودین و ناپدید شدگان اجباری در قتل عام 1367 در ایران و همه آنها که در کشتار وحشیانه و مداوم در ایران ناپدید شده اند تشکیل شود.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And let me first thank the President-elect of the National Council of Resistance, of Iran, Madame Maryam Rajavi. The survivors of brutal prosecutions, family and friends of the victims of 1988 massacre, their sobering testimonies today moved all of us. I want to greet the distinguished audience, activists and journalists, my dear friends and colleagues from Human Rights Council and other walks of life. My heartfelt greetings to those following this conference abroad, especially to brave Iranians in Albania, bordering country, to Montenegro, my country of origin. Ditmir to all of you in Albania. My special sympathy and condolences and heartfelt feelings for those 30,000 of lives that vanish. As a daughter of political prisoner in former Yugoslavia, I feel very emotional today, and I'm sure that my father, who was lucky enough to come back after 4 years and pass away surrounded by love and the family, is walking, marching today with those 30,000 and more victims that are carrying light of hope for the future of Iran. We are at the eve of 35th anniversary or commemoration of the 1988 massacre. And in the light of the continued impunity of the regime in Iran, dear friends, as Rajavi mentioned many years ago, it is impossible to break the seal of impunity of the religious tyranny without changing regime in Tehran. 43 years after the establishment, the Islamic Republic of Iran lacks legitimacy amongst Iranians at home and the international arena. The people did not choose their leaders through free and fair elections, since the authorities are neither transparent, accountable, nor competent. Iran is facing a high level of corruption and human rights violation on the one side, and a system that cannot provide the bare minimums for its people on the other. Internationally, the Islamic Republic of Iran is considered a threat to regional stability and world peace, and its leaders face isolations and sanctions. The world's largest state sponsor of terrorism has been a greedy and ungrateful political, diplomatic, and business partner. In light of some appeasement policies, Tehran carried out dozens of terrorist attacks across Europe and continued funding militant groups in the Middle East, threatening not only Western values, but also universal declaration of human rights and all that humanity stands for. Let us call Secretary General of the UN and High Commissioner of the Human Rights Council to request regime in Tehran to repeal fatwa and to release all political prisoners without delay. Dear friends, more than half of current Iran citizens were not alive at the time of 1979 revolution, and many were not born at the time of 1988 massacre. Now entering the 5th decade in the power of the brutal, barbaric regime, in Tehran, the international community is facing a challenging period. How to support and transmit the commitments of the UN Declaration of Human Rights at the 75th anniversary of that declaration. For this new generation of Iran on the rise that is demanding accountability and changes in the country. Dispute the many efforts of human rights defenders and civil society organizers to document these crimes and advocate for accountability of those responsible, justice and truth for the victims. The Iranian regime has never acknowledged, never, the facts of admitting its involvement in 1988 massacre or any of the continuous brutal killings and barbarian executions of the regime. Many perpetrators have remained in high position of power today, and no trial have been held in Iran. Some of those have not only been prosecuted for the crimes, but have even been glorified as national heroes who fought against terrorism. During the recent Iranian Democratic Opposition Annual International Women's Day event for 2023, Ms. Rajavi has said that not simply women's rights to either veil or not veil are questioned, but the right of women to make choices about their personal life. It is the right of women to be able to choose their leaders. And I would add here today, it is the right of women to be the leaders of the future Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, my speech was like full of accountability mechanism, judicial, non-judicial, all kinds of recommendations and evaluation from different Human Rights Council rapporteur statements and findings. But let me just finish by saying that 30th of August is International Day of the Victims of Enforced Disappearance. So in 2 months, we will have an important day to remember all that disappeared, that there were cut off possibilities and full potential of human life. More than a human rights violation against the individual, enforced disappearance has frequently been used to spread terror within society, and that's what's going on in Iran. Hundreds of thousands have been vanished during conflicts or periods of repression in at least 85 countries worldwide, and Iran stands at the far front of this list. We want to correct that. We want to have Iran that all people can manage their everyday life and well-being, and they can accomplish their full potential of their life and their talents. Let's send a united message from this table to the High Commissioner for Human Rights on the occasion of August 30th, the International Day of Victims of Enforced Disappearance. It is high time to establish this long-awaiting institution, the Independent International Commission for Inquiry, with an international mandate to clarify the fate and whereabouts of missing and forcibly disappeared persons in Iran's massacre in 1988. And all disappeared in continuous brutal killing and torture in Iran these days. Establishing the truth is essential for victims, survivors, families, and society to move forward. As recently As June 19, Syria's UN expert urged General Assembly to establish a human rights body to meaningfully address the tragedy of missing and forcibly disappeared persons in Syria after 12 years. Iran massacre 1988 and continuing violation of applicable laws deserve similar action from the United Nations. The upcoming oral report of the fact-finding mission for Iran must be just a step towards a more robust mechanism of accountability. UN Human Rights Council must not stay silent and must step up in confronting the persistent impunity in Iran and any state or government at any time. I thank you very much.